Well, that was kind of terrible. It's basically a TV movie disguised as a feature film. Like, we could have watched that on Lifetime and not known the difference. I'm being very harsh. So I just saw Karate Kid Legends. Let's talk about it. Directed by Jonathan Entwistle, if that's how you pronounce his last name, and what I believe is his directorial debut. Now, if he has directed any other feature film, I can't find it. Stars Ben Wang, Jackie Chan, Ralph Macchio, Sadie Stanley, Joshua Jackson, Ming-Na Wen. Ming-Na Wen? How did I not know? When was someone going to tell me that the lady from my favorite comfort episode of Law & Order SVU was also the voice of Mulan? Like, why is she here? What do you mean she's Li Mei? The highlight for me was definitely Joshua Jackson. Like, big fan of whatever it was he was doing. There are going to be spoilers. So this is about a kid named Lee. Lee lives in Beijing with his mom and studies Kung Fu under his great uncle, Han. Well, Lee's mama is a doctor and she gets a new position in New York, so they pack up everything and move. In the middle of all this, they're kind of sort of dealing with a tragedy from the year before when she lost her older son, Lee's big brother. He gets to New York, he wants pizza, and that's where he meets Mia. Mia is cute and willing to show him around New York and explain New York to him, but she has an ex-boyfriend named Connor who is like the top karate dude in the city, wins this tournament called the Five Boroughs every year. I'm just going to stop the synopsis right there because to tell you any more, I would end up just telling you the whole movie. Because what even was the point of this? What was the plot? The plot was just all over the place. Tonally, the inconsistencies were just jarring. So the movie starts off just very empty and kind of void. The acting was just not good. Everybody was moving around like they just hopped off the Disney Channel. Let's back up a little bit. So this is a 41-year-old franchise. Started in 1984. We're now in 2025. The last Karate Kid movie was in 2010, the one with Jaden Smith and Jackie Chan. The problem with that movie was it wasn't karate, it was kung fu. Fun fact, I actually worked at a movie theater when that movie came out, and that movie was a nightmare. But that's a story for another time. I remember that being such a big conversation with that 2010 film. Like, why are we calling this the Karate Kid if it's not about karate? But I feel like that's kind of the point of this 2025 film, is to make that 2010 film make sense and show how it fits into the franchise. Because we're connecting, Mr. Han, Jackie Chan, to Mr. Miyagi, and we're connecting karate to kung fu by showing the history of karate and kung fu and how they connect, and also the whole two branches one tree thing. So that seemed to be a point at the very beginning, because we see kind of a flashback moment between Sensei Miyagi and Daniel, explaining the history of it all, and then we get into the movie and it went downhill from there. Now, there was a slight uphill about a little over halfway through when Jackie Chan re-enters the film, because he's there in the very beginning. We see him at the school in Beijing, and then we don't really see him much other than, him trying to call his nephew or him talking to his nephew on the phone. But then he comes to the Big Apple, and that's when life starts to re-enter the film. Before that, it's just dull. It's just dead. So I feel like that's the moment you can tell when the director lost control of the project. When you could tell Jackie Chan kind of just did what he does and took over a little bit, and he kind of let him be and let him do. And I think once the director stepped off of it a little bit, when his hand wasn't so noticeable, that's when the movie started to get interesting. But quite honestly, by the time we get to that point, it's too late. Daniel's son comes into the film way too late. Like, I'd say the last quarter of the film is when we see him, and his role is so minimal. He's just there to really train him. He's just there. He's just there. Did I say how tonally inconsistent this was with the music and then what was happening on the screen? It just didn't match. But the cinematography overall, I think, was disappointing, because I don't think they really understood the assignment with respect to this being a karate movie or just a martial arts movie in general. Now, it's been a long time since I've taken any kind of karate class. Like, quintessential 90s kid, I took karate when I was like 8 or 9 years old. Obsessed with the Power Rangers, Three Ninjas. Like, karate, martial arts movies ran the 90s. Big part of our childhood, okay? And this is what I understand about martial arts. It's an artistry. And it's not just, the movement, but for those of us who are kind of outside, it's something about the way it looks at a distance or up close that's just beautiful. And the problem is there wasn't enough space between the camera and the actors for us to see the beautiful picture of martial arts. The editing was very quick. The camera was either too high or too low. You really couldn't see the sharpness of the movement. It wasn't shot very well. I think there's something to be said about the editing. It was too quick. Like, there really wasn't enough time to really appreciate what he was doing, the movements, the beauty of it all, the grace, if you will. I mean, I think you'll enjoy it for the most part, but like, it's just not that good. Like, why did we need, what was the point? What was the point of this movie? What was the goal here? Like, what was the plot? Why? The big why. Every trailer talks about, the Five Boroughs tournament, but the Five Boroughs tournament doesn't come into the film until maybe the last fifth. Like, the final fight scene, because all of these movies in this franchise have that big final fight scene, and it's the big thing, right? And everything is leading up to this moment, and all the tension is leading up to this moment. It's 9 minutes long. From 9:09 to 9:17, that's the final fight scene, and then the movie ends, like, in credits at 9:24. And the whole tournament itself, before we get to that final fight scene, is basically a montage. I mean, graphics-wise, looked pretty cool. But yeah, it's just a montage. The whole tournament itself, maybe 20 minutes. Connor Day, our villain in this story, why am I supposed to hate him exactly? Man has beautiful hair. I don't know why they felt the need to give him that Steven Seagal ponytail. But, to each their own. Not everybody can be Tommy Oliver. But we're not given enough time to really appreciate or dislike him. There really isn't a good enough reason other than he's the ex-boyfriend. He, trains at the gym that's after the dad. And it's like, why do we care about Lee beating him? Like, why is it so important? What does he gain from that? What does Connor lose? We're in a parking garage. Anyways, so, like, we're just not really given enough time. Character development is so weak. The building of relationships in this movie is so off. We're introduced to this love interest, if you will, but it's so blotchy. She's not consistent in the film at all. And then when she re-enters, it's like they forgot what emotion she was supposed to serve from here to there. And then he has this tutor named Alan, and we are not given enough Alan time. He is such an interesting little character. I would have loved to see that friendship between him and Lee build. Like, we're just not given enough time. We're introduced to these little itty-bitty characters, and they seem important to Lee, but why should they be important to us? We're not given that space and that time. Am I making any sense? I say a 4 out of 10. I mean, you're going to enjoy it. It's fun trash, but it's not very good. I mean, I think my feelings are more disappointment than anything. Like, why is this here? Give me a reason.